Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about Nikola stock, and this is a stock that quite a few guys have been on the channel commenting, asking me to do my opinion on this stock. And I wasn't really that interested in this stock just because normally when stocks are kind of like being talked about so much and when the stock price is like raised as much as it has done on this one, I kind of stand off them and like let them run the course, and then eventually when it all calms down, then that's normally when I get into companies like this. But yeah, there's been a lot of demand to talk about this, and you know what? I should actually probably look into this company, because that is a company that whenever like something's exploding in the stock market, even if I'm not really interested into buying it, I always want to know what the company's about and what's kind of the hype about. So it's a good stock for me to look into myself, and I'm sure some of you guys were just keen to know my opinion on this company. Now I'm going to say it was a nightmare looking into this company. It gave me the biggest headache ever trying to understand how this company was working. Why has it got so many different models? Why is it so different from other companies, and why is the hype there? There was a big lack of information out there, and even when I was like on other YouTube videos, like watching their opinion on it, all I heard them talking about was like how crazy the valuation was, and pretty much comparing them to Tesla. And like there has been a little bit of beef going out between the CEO of Nikola and him, kind of like trash talking Tesla. But from their kind of view as Nikola, when we get into the company, you'll understand that it does need to talk a big game, just how Tesla was talking a big game quite a few years back, and because it needs to act like it could pretty much, rule the market, and more than likely Nikola will still need funding from here, and that's why it needs to hype itself up, and that's why it's talking a big game, why it's getting into headlines talking about Tesla. So it's kind of like a good way to actually raise money, even though it's not really achieved anything to date right now. So I'm going to try and make this video as easy as I can for you guys to understand, because like I say, it was an absolute headache trying to find this information out on what the hype was around. And like I say, even like other YouTube channels, like the videos they were posting, there weren't really clear information in here. So hopefully I can break this down for you and make it a bit easier to get your head around this company. So basically what this company is going to do different is it's going to produce hydrogen cars, and at the moment the big thing is towards electric cars. Now the theory behind hydrogen cars is that it is more powerful, so that means you'll have a bigger range in your vehicles, which is obviously a massive bonus, and as well as being having the bigger range, they're also a lot quicker to charge up. So for example, a hydrogen car could take somewhere like 5 minutes, whereas your typical electric car could take half an hour. Now the argument behind it is that the technology on the electric cars will carry on developing, which will eventually catch up to that point. That's one of their arguments. But if we take it just from the moment, there is a big difference between hydrogen cars and electric cars and the amount of power that is in there. So the benefit is the hydrogen cars. Now there has been plenty of attempts to make hydrogen cars. The problem is that you don't have the infrastructure of like hydrogen charging stations. As well as that, it was a little bit more expensive, which was the other thing. And obviously the main reason of hydrogen cars is that it's explosive, and driving around in an explosive vehicle is something that can put people off, I think. It is said to be a lot safer now, and that if there was a collision, it is able to kind of release the hydrogen insanely quick, so it's not able to explode. But yeah, I think that's just been the big major red flag with hydrogen cars in general. So first of all, the valuation. So the valuation is 20 billion, which is a very expensive valuation. So you can see this company's probably a little bit overvalued at these sort of prices. You're talking to sort of the valuation of what Ford is. When you look into the revenue, it's a company it's making a little bit of revenue, but not enough for like a company that's trading at 20 billion. No profit, and it's not probably going to be profitable to 2024 at least. But eventually we do get an explosion in revenue in 2023, and that's due to some of the vehicles coming out then. So basically, this company is kind of hyped up, and there'll be nothing coming out of this company for a very long time, and the revenue won't be exploding for this company for a very long time, and profitability is probably going to be quite far off this company for a very long time. You're basically buying what the future is in this company. So there's the vehicle side, which is the hydrogen vehicle side, and it's also going to be an energy play as well. Just like how Tesla is kind of focused on its energy, it's going to be focused on hydrogen energy. So what it's going to do, it's going to be building a lot of these H2 stations. So obviously, if you're selling vehicles, you need somewhere to charge them, and obviously that infrastructure isn't out there. So they're going to be building a lot of these stations where you're able to charge your vehicles, and that obviously is going to cost a lot of money to get that out there, and that's just in the US. I mean, obviously when you're looking to expand into like Europe, for example, then you pretty much have to do it again. But the aim is that, you know, once these stations are owned and Nikola owns these stations, you'll be able to go to these stations, and Nikola will, you know, be able to carry on making money through there being an energy supplier as well. So it's kind of looking from that side, which is a little bit of a bonus extra with this company. Now, obviously the main thing is talking about the vehicles, which are hydrogen-based vehicles. So you've got the Nikola One, which basically was the first truck that was out, and that was based with a sleeping cab. And then what they decided to do is bring out a Nikola 2, which is basically the same, but it doesn't have a sleeping cab on it. And then also it decided to bring out a Nikola 3, which is basically the truck they're going to be aiming at the EU and I believe also Asia. So it brought 3 different trucks out, which I'm like, it was a bit confusing now, because I was trying to get my head around, like, why have they made 3 different trucks, which none of them are in production yet, and what's the point? Like, wouldn't it just make more sense to just focus on one truck rather than doing 3 that you haven't even like mass produced one of them of? That's what I was trying to get my head around, like what was the difference between them? And from what I can work out, those are the difference between them. So one's sleeping cab, one's without a sleeping cab, and one of them is going to be aimed at the EU. Now, there has been some pre-orders for these, and one thing that Nikola always says over what the Tesla semi-truck's going to be is because of the hydrogen powered vehicles, what this will give the trucks is obviously a lot more power, a lot more speed. It'll be able to charge faster, and also you'll be getting a bigger range on some of these vehicles. So that's the argument with Nikola compared to Tesla, that these trucks will be better. And you know what, potentially if the trucks do well and they get out there, there's a lot of potential on them. You know, they're pretty good looking vehicles. What they say is pretty good, but obviously it's a totally different scenario when you talk about, first of all, the need to get the charging stations in place for these vehicles, and as well as that, they actually need to mass produce these vehicles. You know, you look at a company like Tesla and how long it took them to get up to the production scale where they were taken seriously. Yeah, it's exactly the same for Nikola. There's a lot of things that they need to do to get into that kind of production stage as well. Now, one of the other releases is the Nikola Badger, which is basically going to be a bit of competition for the Cybertruck of Tesla. And when you look into it, it's going to probably be released later than what the Cybertruck is. As far as I've worked out, there's also no prototype of it. Like, they're all stock images. So you kind of like on the like looking at the image, you're going, yeah, I'll have one of them. There's no prototype actually out there. So that's still quite far away of production. Once again, you're kind of like investing in the hype and what the idea is. You know, you're not really investing into a company, you're investing into the idea. But yeah, it's going to be slightly more expensive than the Cybertruck, which is kind of a bit off-putting. I would say that if you want to go with a Cybertruck, you probably want to be price matching it. So that's the only little negative I would say on it. But the actual vehicle actually looks pretty good overall. And also, it also is in the electric power sports business. Now, I'm not going to talk about that too much because it took me ages to look into all the other stuff that's going on in this company. But they're also looking at like electric power sports, and that's another side of the business, which I don't think will be, you know, the serious side really. I think it's all kind of focused on that mass production of these hydrogen cars, and if they're able to do it. So overall, my kind of thoughts of Nikola is that I actually kind of like what's going on with the company. I like that they're looking at hydrogen, and if they can make it happen, that would be really good. It would be a serious threat to Tesla and electric vehicles if they could get hydrogen vehicles to take off. Obviously, it would be better for the range side of it and the power side of it. As long as you can get people on side that they're safe, that's obviously one of the big risks. You also have to get the infrastructure in place, so obviously you need to get the hydrogen stations to charge your vehicles in place, which Obviously at the moment they're planning to, you know, ramp that up loads, but they're going to need a lot of money, which will obviously probably lead to like share dilution to raise money as well. So they're probably going to have to raise money to get that in place. And also with the vehicle side of it, they're still quite far away from these mass productions of these vehicles, which obviously once again will take a lot of money to get the production in place. I think they're also looking for like partners to help with building these vehicles. Another thing is they're looking at doing servicing with these vehicles, so like everything is managed by them, just like how Tesla is. And I think like from the trucks point of view, you don't actually go out and buy these trucks. It's all about leasing, and you actually lease the vehicle, and that includes your like charging and also like your service side of it. So I think like behind it, the theory is quite good, but once again, it's like putting that into action and actually it working, because it's so far away from it actually being that point. Like it's generally at least, you know, 3 years away from actually getting, in my opinion, to a company that I could invest in. But I like where the company's looking to go. I like the ideas behind it. But from my point of view, is it a time to buy this company? I mean, if you wanted to take a punt and, you know, just invest a little bit of money in this company and just like not look at it for 5 years and hope for the best, I mean, you could do it, but I wouldn't invest a lot if you were going to do that. But for me, I when I'm investing, I generally like to invest in something more than like the idea. I actually like to invest into a company that I can see the vision getting there and getting where it needs to be within like 2 years. So like when I invested into Square, when I invested into Tesla, you know, I made, you know, over 100% on them companies, but them companies were only, you know, 2 years away from where they were going to get taken, you know, massively serious. This company won't get taken serious for quite a few years yet because of how far it is off where it needs to be and the money that it still needs to raise and the production it needs to put in place. So for me, when I look at Nikola, a very expensive valuation, everyone getting a bit carried away with it, and sure, you know what, if you want to take a punt on it, you know, take a punt on it, but I won't put too much money on it. But for me, I would still need to see the company develop a fair bit more before I even consider buying this one right now. But I will add it to my watch list. I do find it an interesting company, so I will check up on this probably in a little bit, see how it's doing, what's going on. I'll keep an eye on some news articles, but for me, just a bit too far off me investing in yet. It still needs a bit more development in the company side for me to be able to invest into it. And that's me covering Nikola stock today, guys. As always, if you can like the video, that'd be absolutely amazing. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you on the next one.